Okay, so today this is our ALDI Attitude Research Plan. This was done by Charlotte Tilney, Amy Hodge, Julie Tran, and Fergus Cargill. So basically, ALDI noticed a gap between customer expectations and their satisfaction with their service. So unsure of what exactly was causing that, they decided to undertake a gap analysis of exactly where they were lacking, how they could retain more customers through improving their service. So what we did is we then conducted a brief about how this could be conducted. So we'll do this by creating a research brief for a research agency to be able to conduct a gap analysis for ALDI to assess customer satisfaction. As a result, helping ALDI to better understand issues with customer satisfaction in their supermarkets. So basically, the team that we had conducting this research brief was Charlotte, conducting the information required to fulfill the objectives, Amy, who was doing the research and the marketing objectives for the research plan, as well as Julie, who was doing the key considerations for data collection, Fergus, who was helping with the report, as well as conducting the audio and visual report. So the purpose that we found of this report was really to identify a research problem for ALDI that they might not know of, create a set of marketing and research objectives that would interlink with each other, propose some key considerations, required info, and methodology for researching this problem, as well as providing recommendations about output, contact strategy, response rates, and the training and supervision of data collection team. So first, we developed a set of marketing objectives that our proposed research plan would aim to assist in achieving. So the first of these being to expand ALDI's national market share by 20% in the next quarter, increase recognition of the ALDI brand by 20% in the next quarter, increase customer retention by 20% in the next quarter, as well as increase customer lifetime value by 20% in the next 6 months, achieve greater than 90% customer satisfaction month on month, as well as maintain CanStar's Most Satisfied Customers title in 2020. So we found that in order to achieve the marketing objectives, these research objectives must first be achieved. So the research objectives that we came up with firstly dealt with determining the overall level of ALDI brand awareness by interviewing active participants and consumers. Secondly being to obtaining customer attitudes in regards to the ALDI brand and identity, where it is perceived to sit when compared to key competitors in the Australian grocery market, those being Coles, Woolworths, IGA, as well as identifying levels of ALDI customer satisfaction, so both positive and negative along the entire path to purchase, pre, during, and post-shop, to determine the overarching customer experience score and identify any need for improvement. So as well as that, we also had to analyse the purchase trends of ALDI customers against customers of major competitors, Coles, Woolworths, IGA, to gain deeper insights into consumer behaviour and identify if there are any unexpected gaps that need to be addressed in the overall ALDI shopping experience. As further on, we also had to identify all the key drivers that influence intent to purchase and the final purchase, and ensure that the existing business objectives align with the buyer behaviour. So in terms of that, further on we came up with the idea of conducting focus groups. So by engaging focus groups of ALDI customers, the researchers will present the focus groups with the themes of price, product, place, and promotion, and service, as well as us, and then ask to choose what are the most meaningful to those customers. So this will also help them to incorporate questions related to the 4 Ps, as being price, product, place, and promotion, also as well as service. And it also allows for broader scope than a traditional questionnaire. As well, in conjunction with this, there will also be the use of offline hard copy questionnaires that will use a traditional scaled survey method, and the use of scaled numbered responses for consumers to express their satisfaction with certain aspects of their service, as well as allowing us to quantitatively convert those responses. Further on, a 7-point numbered scale, which allows for more clarity and nuance, as well as using verbal cues corresponding to the numbered scale that allows us to turn that into a numerical data and then quantify that later on. So one of the key considerations that we found would be really important in conducting this research was that of an appropriate questionnaire design. So a sample of this size will require an effective and appropriate questionnaire design. Using this method will require recordings of the participants' feedback, which is more likely to be accurate. Questionnaires is most commonly used to gather information from participants during a research, which is used in conjunction with other types of methods. Questionnaires are usually used to understand the respondent's behaviour and why they respond that way. So some of the things that we found were needed for effective questionnaire design was first that it must allow for unbiased responses. It does need to be recorded. It'll be used in conjunction with other methods like focus groups, interviews, etc. Also, it helps to understand why consumers think a certain way. It must use relevant closed-end questions so that the responses we're getting are in line with the research objectives. It must also use scaled questions used for clarity, so as being dichotomous, multiple choice, Likert, etc. As well as that, the clarity of the wording of the questions is also really important, so that is clear to respondents when they're conducting the survey. So some of the other key considerations that we found outside of our major one were that the correct data collection approach and methodology, so we'll be use of the conclusive method. It allows us to measure quantitatively. It also helps us to generalize results, and it can be incorporated with other methods like mail, face-to-face, online. As further than that, customer target and sample would be 300 in-store shoppers at random using gift card incentives. Also, the contact strategy and response rates, so we're use of face-to-face interviews, also using gift cards as incentives. The training and supervision of the data collection team, so they would be trained by the research agency internally and trained and equipped by the research agency to conduct the surveying. In terms of the data processing, there'd be a gap analysis done, and that'll be converted from verbal to quantitative. So in conducting this research plan, we outlined some potential barriers that could exist when conducting it. So some of the barriers we had around scaling were in that too many scales would mean too much decision for participants and make it a little bit difficult to respond, and too few would not allow for enough nuance in the responses that we receive. So the difficulty there is really in developing a clear and accurate scaling. So the questionnaire design was another barrier that we had, so that could result in biased responses within the survey, getting responses that were relevant to the research objectives, and also basically just respondent difficulty in understanding the questionnaire design. Some of the further barriers we found were that in interviewer competency, so some interviewers who aren't competent or lack motivation have the potential to skew results and slow down the process. Hesitancy for participation by respondents, so respondents being hesitant to take part in the survey, as well as some difficulties in completing the research within that given time frame, in that we can't get enough participation in the time frame. So some of the recommendations that we had to overcome these barriers. So firstly, overcoming scaling issues, we found that the use of a scale of 7 as evidence shows that this is a good amount with a neutral midpoint, allowing for enough nuance as well as being clear enough to respondents when taking part. Overcoming questionnaire design issues, we found that the use of clear, relevant, closed-end questions for accurate and relevant responses was really important. Dichotomous multiple choice or rating scale for clarity with respondents, as well as the clarity of keywords within questions was also very important. Another recommendations that we had were overcoming interviewer competency, would need good and consistent supervision of the interviewing team, quality training and support, overcoming hesitancy in participation and completion in the time frame. We found that the use of gift card incentives could be good here to encourage participation and allow that research to be completed within that given time frame. So overall, the research we proposed gave objectives, considerations, as well as a methodology that would prove most effective in understanding the needs and desires of an average ALDI customer. So this used to further close the gap between customer expectations and satisfaction with the ALDI service. Thank you.